Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Everyone's Addicted. Today's guest, Nicola, has come all the way from the other side of the world from Canada, anyways. She's on the opposite side. So it's morning here, tonight for her. But let's welcome her graciously. She's come on to talk about her knowledge and her experience with addiction. So, hi, Nicola, and tell us about yourself a little bit.
Sure. So thank you, first of all, for having me. I'm really grateful to be here. Um, so I got started in this work helping people with addictions because of my own childhood and my own struggle with addictions. It started, at a really early age when my mum, she was suffering with depression and breakdowns, and so she was quite well, it was really difficult to live with. She'd be emotionally abusive, sometimes physically, and it really hit my self-esteem. And I really, hated myself as a child because I'd see my
My
mum
mom, my
collapse.
mom did the same thing to me, so I understand.
Yeah,
Sorry to cut
yeah.
you off. It just sounded like my
No, that's
childhood
okay.
so much.
And my dad really didn't do anything until he left when I was 13. So, and I always thought that divorce would be like it is in the movies, that both your parents would fight after you and they'll treat you so well and really look after you, but
Get
none of
two
that
good
happened.
Christmases. Yeah.
Yeah,
The
it was
TV.
not like that. Yeah. And so
Oh,
the
I'm sorry to hear
first
that.
kind of addiction that thank you, I got into was actually eating disorder and bulimia. And that started at 14. And I didn't realize until I was doing one of Dr. Gabor Mate's training courses that actually when you're sick, you get a dopamine hit.
Mm-hmm.
So I was actually becoming addicted to the
The
dopamine
dopamine.
of throwing up. So that was my first battle, which took me a long time to get over because I was just so used to sort of punishing myself, analyzing my body, analyzing this, and then it became workaholism. So just working all the time, keeping myself busy, trying to get my self-esteem, my self-worth from work. When it was going well, I felt great. When it wasn't, it was really hard. And then that's when I turned to alcohol. And I can't even tell you how many years I drank every single night. And it was just work hard, drink to numb, work hard, drink to go again. And
You're
it stopped.
lucky. I couldn't do that. I also drank to them, but I was not functional. Like I would, so at least you were able to,
Right.
I mean, not like at least, but like I always have been envious of functional alcoholics because I was not functional. So
Mm,
at least
yeah.
all I'm saying is like at least you're able to get stuff accomplished because that was my biggest regret was wasting so much time being drunk and throwing up because I would make myself throw up so that I could drink more, which in
Wow.
itself is
Mm.
kind of the same. Like you know what I mean? It was so I could
Yeah,
drink
I've done
more.
that with food. I've done that with
And
food.
so
I've thrown up so I can eat more and then, so I can relate to that.
and then you can't and then your throat hurts so bad
Mm.
and oh yeah, I worked in bars, so I would always, you know, go out with the intent of being able to get up the next day, go to work and be functional, but could never actually pull it off. So that's why I'm saying I've always been envious of the functional alcoholic, right?
Yeah, but looking back, I mean, I didn't have a life. It was like work, drink, switch off. I used to drink myself to sleep, then it would be the same. So, I really feel like, oh yeah, I was robbed of my 20s and 30s, really.
Oh, that's
Um,
yeah, that's how I feel because I would start school and then I would never finish it. You know what I mean? Because I would drink and I would screw that up. So
mm,
that's exactly what I was trying to get at with the functionality part.
yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So you miss whatever form it is, whatever addiction you have, you miss out on so much.
Mhm.
So I tried lots of different things. I tried talk therapy. I tried, just talking and talking, and I got a lot of insight into I knew, okay, I really understand that this workaholism or this alcohol, related to my childhood, the low self-esteem. I understood everything, but I
Mhm.
really couldn't shift it. So then I started training in trauma-informed therapy, which was, going into the body and releasing things. And things got a little bit lighter. But it wasn't until I discovered plant medicine, and because I was just sick of really knowing how all these things connect, but still feeling powerless, that I
Same.
went, yeah,
That was a
that
big feeling for me too.
and I mean, I tried the sort of support groups and all things like that. Had a sponsor, I did everything, but it's still, I just couldn't break it. And it made me feel like a failure. And so I then decided to try plant medicine. So specifically, I went on two different retreats, and one was a psilocybin mushroom, so magic mushrooms that most of us know. And
Hmm.
that one, I went to heal my relationship patterns. So with the drinking, with the low self-esteem, with the eating, I just didn't feel safe around people. With the childhood that I had, when I met good guys, I would see red flags that weren't there. I'd question, I'd doubt everything. Or I'd be attracted to narcissistic part people. And so my relationship life was really a disaster, and I longed to be loved. I longed to be connected, but I just sabotaged it in all many different ways. And I'd always put it off. Oh, I just need to get through this project. I just need to do this. I just need to get healthy on this way, or whatever it was. There was always an excuse to just avoid intimacy, avoid connection. And obviously, addictions, they keep you more isolated and more alone.
Well,
So,
I'm agoraphobic, and it almost seems like you're very similar with that because I like, do you know what I mean? Like saying, oh, I'm just gonna put it off and do stuff where I'm just focusing on me, right? And I was very
mm,
much the same, and I've been diagnosed with agoraphobia because I don't like places I'll go and be like hide if I'm at college to find a safe space anywhere I go because of my childhood. And it seems like does anybody ever say to you like were you agoraphobic? Because it sounds so much like agoraphobia just due to the fact of that you're wanting to connect, but at the same time you're wanting to block out people because that's what the doctor said for me it was what the
yeah.
reasoning of agoraphobic
Well, I,
bleh,
I
that's
haven't
what
really
doctor-
looked into that. I mean, I was diagnosed with CPSD.
yeah,
So,
I had that too and they
uh,
correlate.
yeah, so the complex PTSD, and and it was because my nervous system didn't feel safe, and that's actually ties into that experience. And when you take psychedelics, I mean, they work they work on the brain in three main ways. They work on trauma in three main ways. So they help you get to the root of things. So the first thing that they do is they quiet the default mode network. So the default mode network is the area of our brain that's responsible for this overanalyzing, overthinking, self-judgment, self-criticism, remuneration, things that go on and on and on, and all the fear and all your fears. So when you take a psychedelic medicine, it quiets that. So then you're able to process and go to memories or receive insights, to hear things, to release things that you've been holding in your subconscious. So it allows you to access your subconscious with all of the wisdom and the knowledge that you have, and find great insights and great perspectives without fear. And so people are able to release a lot of pent up trauma
The
and
body,
events.
yeah, like because I've heard of people saying like that you need to clear the trauma out of your actual physical body, and is that
Yes.
kind of does that what psychedelics is mostly about?
Yeah, because well, that's definitely one of the main things. So when we experience trauma, let's say for us, it happens in our childhood. When something painful happens, trauma isn't about the event; it's what happens to you in your body. So something traumatic will happen, and then if you can't cope with all of that emotional overwhelm, the fear, the sadness, whatever it is, the hurt, the pain, then it will get stuck in your body and it gets frozen. And people then adapt, and their nervous system is not safe. So for me, I live most of my life in the fight or flight. I'm constantly stressed, either anxious, angry, agitated, go,
That's
go,
what I
go,
was.
and hypervigilant. So I mentioned about, dating relationship disasters, because I would just be
Mhm.
so alert. Everything they said, oh, then I'd play it back after a date. Oh, did they mean this? Did they say this? I'd look at text message and think, just constantly
Well, my
scared
health
because I
assessment
didn't
says
feel
the same
safe.
thing. My health assessment, mental health assessment says the same thing. hyper vigilant, but I'm in a different way because I was really bullied, like really
Wow.
bullied. So like taking my children to the bus stop or picking them up. So say when I had to pick them up, I would sit in my house all day in fight or flight mode, being afraid to go to the bus stop because I was afraid the other mothers would be like, "Oh, her hair doesn't look good," or "Oh, she wore those pants yesterday," or you know what I mean? Like really insignificant things, but it's just because I was like hyper, like that hyper vigilant, like you're just worried about
Mhm.
something because of something that happened to you in the past, obviously, right? And like,
Yeah.
um, for you though, I feel so bad because it was like that must have been so lonely having to
Which,
go through the part with like always being like when you're dating somebody, always like
yeah,
being
that was
so
tough.
vigilant. Like that would
But
be
I,
stuff
but I
so
was so
hard.
into my addictive patterns of just working to avoid and the alcohol. It didn't seem like that, but when you look back, you think, "Wow, I've just missed out on so much." So that's the first thing that psychedelics do. They calm everything so you can see everything and process everything clearly. And they also calm that part of the brain, the amygdala, the fear center. So that's a great thing. And then the
Oh,
second
yeah.
main thing that they do is the neuroplasticity. So we're constantly building neural pathways, but as we age, that really slows down and we get stuck in the same rigid thought patterns. We get stuck in our addictive patterns. And when you take psychedelics, it fires the brain in loads of different ways. You just imagine loads of neurons just firing in loads of different ways. So people access wisdom, insights around their addiction, around their life, about who they are, who they want to be. They break the mold. And then what that happens is you can then have lots more positive neural networks. So people don't need to go back to the addictive substances. So mushrooms, for example, have been really successful in helping people with heavy drinking to stop their heavy drinking. And peeps, there's like research studies that show that it's had a
Oh yeah.
lasting impact. And
Well,
then,
I wanted to try it, but because I was in high school, I took, like in a clinical sense, there the right dose. But when you're a
mm,
teenager, you take handfuls because you think you're a tough guy,
mm,
right? And so I had a really
mm,
bad experience with them. But because of a lot of the trauma I know I still hold on to, I've wanted to try it, but I just need to find like now listening to you, and I do know it helps rewire your brain and helps
mm.
because my cousin microdosed it and she had a methamphetamine addiction really, really badly. And now she's like living in the really nice area of Canada with a great job in the Rocky Mountains, like life from A to B is so much different that it made me want to try it. And that's why I wanted to talk to you because I'm like, my first experience with mushrooms was so scary, right?
Yeah, yeah. So the dosage is definitely one thing. The other two things is you need to have the right setting, the right environment. You need to be, what works really good for that environment is having some music to play. You're not going to be interrupted, or you've got someone to sit with you and be there if you want to talk or go through emotional things. That you've got the right mindset as well, so that if you're too scared or you've had a really emotional heavy day, probably wait to be a little bit calmer. So these things are really, really important to make sure that it's safe. And it's very different, having a few mushrooms and then having some alcohol and going to a party. Of course, that's not going to have the same effect at all. So it's really making
Oh,
sure that, and the key to a really successful psychedelic experience is setting an intention. So really saying like, please, the medicine, please reveal to me what needs to be healed. Or I remember I did one session early on why am I drinking? And I was because I'd done so much work and I was like, but I've done some work. Why am I still drinking? And it said to me, you're trying to avoid being tired, that I was masking my tiredness so that and then I was like, wow, how come I didn't realize that before? But anytime I felt
you gotta
tired, it
put
was
two and two together. That's
it's a
yeah.
trigger it was a craving of like, I feel tired, I don't want to feel tired. I'll drink, then I don't feel tired. But of course, sometimes it's really good that you're listening to your body that's saying you're tired, rest, relax. But I just kept blocking it, and loads of things were revealed to me. So it was really helpful. And the third thing that psychedelics really help people with is feeling the expressing their emotions. So you were talking about what's stored in the body earlier. Like unless you can really fully let go of it, repressed emotions are the stay in you, and that's really unhealthy for your mental
That
health, your
that's
physical health.
where I kind of am right now. And I was thinking to myself, actually, yesterday, I'm like, why can't I feel anything? Like in a way,
Mm,
like you know how like we were listening to a singer singing a song about how his heroin addiction, right? And I'm like, why when I look back upon things in my childhood or things, the only thing that makes me have emotion is the loss of my father, but nothing else. I have this wall that is put up so hard that I cannot connect to my actual
mm.
emotions about some really traumatic things. Like I have this wall put up, and that's why I was thinking to myself, like, why can't I access it? And now it's so like it's kind of serendipitous that you said that, because now I kind of understand why I have it so blocked off. I think it was because for so many years I was bullied and traumatized by my mother that I just put up a wall so I didn't have to feel any feelings, so that and then within adulthood it just grew and grew and grew, and addiction grew, and now it's just so I like literally I because I want to write a novel about my life, right? But I can't dig into those emotions because I have a wall up. And so I definitely need to find a way to fix that, right? Which
Yeah, and the thing
that
is
might be a
that
good way.
your conscious mind, your subconscious mind and your body is preventing you from doing that because it's scared. You're scared to let go. You don't feel safe. And when you're on the medicine, that's when that fear center quiets and you feel safe. So people will cry, they'll laugh, they'll cry and then laugh, they'll scream. They might want to, we have like a punching bag for people that come in case they want to let some anger out, and some boxing gloves. And so they
Oh
can
yeah,
just let
I'll
the
stop
anger
you.
out.
She has a retreat because we didn't talk about that part.
Yeah, you
So
should.
because
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
saying that, right? I'm like, well, we probably should. I should mention that she has a retreat. So why don't you tell us about the retreat then, since and so
Sure.
since we were talking about it, so that they know that that's what you
Yeah,
do and
sure.
stuff. So yeah, sorry.
Yeah, so I decided that I really wanted to help people in a more deep way. I have been working as a counselor and as a trauma-informed therapist for over 10 years, but I really wanted to help people with psychedelics because that is what really changed things for me. The traditional methods weren't as deep enough for people that have just keep getting stuck in the same cycles. And it's not that I don't believe in therapy or other methods, but it takes a long time. Like I mentioned, my eating disorders through conventional methods, it took me over 20 years. And I thought, I don't have 20 years to fix my relationship issues or my workaholism. So psychedelics changed that. So I set up in Asia, Southeast Asia, a small retreat center. So we have 4 bedrooms. So it's really quiet and intimate. Swimming pool, gardens, and we offer 2 medicines. So I talked a bit about the psychedelic mushrooms, psilocybin mushrooms. And my favorite medicine to work with is a cactus from the Andes Mountains. So from Peru and Ecuador, South America.
Is it
And
kava?
it's a green cactus called San Pedro.
Oh, okay. Because somebody was telling me about kava too, so that's why I was wondering if it was
Okay, no,
kava.
I'm not sure of that. No, I'm not sure of that one.
That
So it's
one,
called.
yeah, that one isn't a cactus, so I should have. I'm
No,
it's
that's
early,
okay. When
sorry,
you get
but
these
yeah.
notes, that's okay. So it's also called Wachuma. And that's its original name. And then when the Spanish were going to invade South America, they wanted to get rid of all these rituals, so and all these practices. So the very cleverly, the tribal people realized that if they called it Saint Peter, San Pedro, a Christian
Hmm.
Catholic name, then it would be protected and they would be able to continue. So it's
I
got
have
over.
a I have a St. Peter bracelet right here.
Oh wow. Yeah, and it's been used for over 4,000 years. So it really is one of the safest. And it is one of the safest. It's really gentle. So when you take San Pedro, it lasts for 8 to 12 hours and you feel this massive loved up feeling. You feel in love with everything. You
Oh,
feel
I
in
will.
love. plants. Like you do it outside, so it's not like mushrooms where some people do it. You do it inside and you go in. You're
Hmm.
looking out, so you sit outside all day. You can interact with others, so sometimes I do couples therapy with it. But you have a love of everything, and that's why through that strong love and compassion, you can look at events in your life and heal them because you can see everything through the lens of compassion and strength. So, you can, if you've had, a lot of us who have struggled with addictions, we have a lot of shame around things. There's a lot of embarrassing things we've done. Or even they might not be that bad, but we're beating ourselves up over them still. And this allows you to just clear them and see them and revisit them. And so I just wanted to go back to that point about psychedelics. So they don't make you emotional psychedelics, but what they do is, like you said, they remove that barrier. You sense that you have a block or a barrier, and they remove that. So yeah, so I have this center, and we do mushrooms and San Pedro
So you can
retreats
go
kind of combined
in,
together.
so you can
Yeah,
go in with the psychedelics and then out with the San Pedro, which is like the best combination I've ever heard of, actually. Do you know what I mean? Because
yeah,
I've heard of San Pedro, but I've heard of people like using it not for medicinal purposes, do you know what I mean? And overtaking it and stuff, but because of that loved up feeling, right? But I like how you can go into yourself without fear, and then you can also go out of yourself and see the world and be present and enjoy the present because, like you said, our minds are so stuck a lot of the time in fight or flight, or even just fear and anxiety, or even triggered by post-traumatic stress disorder, whatever it is. We're not enjoying the present, even if we're trying to be as present as possible, we're not enjoying it. And that's allowing you to finally enjoy the present, which is something I would benefit from. And I'm sure a lot of other people would as well. So that's amazing. Because when I think of like a psychedelic retreat, because there's that television show, you think of these people like running around doing all these crazy things, which obviously I know isn't correct because clearly you have to do it legally and clinically like properly, right? So that's why I was so intrigued to hear how it actually works and helps people, right? So
sure.
I like also that you only take four people because then it's not like everybody's going to get seen by therapists and it's not you're not getting rushed through to the next person, rushed through to the next
Yeah,
person,
so,
right?
there's a lot of psychedelic tourism where people will go and there could be 30, 50, even 60 people. They all drink ayahuasca or something, and then they're left, and there's very few guys per person. Often those guys aren't informed, they're not therapists. So it can be, especially if you've got a lot you're holding, it can be really scary. And it can
And
isolate you
others
more.
around you.
Yeah, and some people can get re-traumatized, unfortunately, from those kind of experiences. So, yeah, and that's why I chose San Pedro because it can give you all of the insights that you get on psychedelic medicine without having to sort of throw you in there. There's certain psychedelic medicines like iboga and ayahuasca where you will just you surrender and you do not know where you're going to quite go. Whereas with this, you're aware, you're yourself, but you've got that expanded, loved, supportive, connected, and feeling. And like you said, yeah, it's a perfect combination. The mushrooms help you to go inwards and release. And then the San Pedro helps you to reconnect to yourself, which is the most important. And then seeing your connections and connections with others. So, yeah.
And so for your retreat, where exactly is it in Asia?
Yeah, sure. So it's in Thailand.
Thailand?
Yeah.
And if anybody's interested in it, where would they be able to find information about it? Like, what's your website or your landing page or anything like your social, whatever it is that you well, obviously you'd
Sure.
have to have a website because people have to book it. So what's your website?
Sure. So for people to learn more information, they can go to our website, which is plantmedicinepower.com. And then they can also go to our podcast, which is called Healing with Psychedelics. So it talks about all these different topics. There's one on, all these different areas about how psychedelics have been, helping people. And I just want to address something really important because a lot of people may be scared if they have got an addictive personality, which I really see now after doing a lot of, research and my own experiences that often addictions are dopamine addictions. We're attached
Mhm.
to the dopamine, and then we need more and more because the more dopamine that we give ourselves artificially, we get spikes and spikes and spikes. The
Our
brain likes to
brain.
keep dopamine on a level. So then you're going to go down and have that deficit. So you're going to need it more and more and more. So what I really love about these psychedelic medicines is that they work on serotonin. They're serotonin based.
Oh,
And
okay. I know that psychedelics aren't addictive from like watching my cousin go through it, but
yeah.
yeah, so they're serotonin based. And what about the San Pedro? Is it also serotonin
So
based?
so so um the mushrooms does interact with the dopamine receptors, but it's a different way than giving yourself an artificial dopamine hit. And the
Mm-hmm.
thing about mushrooms and it also works on serotonin. And the thing about mushrooms is the more that you have, it stops. So if you get to a level, could be, let's just say like a strong dose level. If you
Mm-hmm.
go for the next day, you'd have to go really high to have an effect. And then if you try again, it will not work. It keeps a certain level of the whatever that medicine compound is, and you can't go higher than that. And also, you don't really need to because the reason that microdosing works so well, that people do 1 day of microdosing, 1 day off, or 2 days on, and then 2 days off, or 3 days off. There's lots of different microdosing protocols, is because there's an afterglow effect. Even though the medicine has left your system, you have that neuroplasticity, the positive neurons firing, and it has
Yeah.
an afterglow. They call it an afterglow. So that's how that one works. Now, San Pedro works purely on serotonin. And that's why, again, you have that afterglow. So once people do it, they don't need to do it for a long time because you've got that afterglow. Also, it's quite difficult to be addicted to something that lasts so long.
Yeah,
When you're on medicine, 12 hours. For some
because
people,
I
it could
have.
be 14 hours. So it's when you do it, it's like a very special occasion, and then you'll have that experience, and it's like you don't need to because you're just you've got all that loving energy, and you want to then implement what the insights that you've learned.
Because I've heard it's very like you said, very ceremonial, and I've never ever heard of it being something that's addictive. I've heard of it being something that people, like you said, use in ceremonies and in like not, I wouldn't say like celebrations, but like when they like I mean like the culture that it's from, they use it for lots of different things. And but I've never ever heard of it being addictive or anything like that. I've never known anybody who's used it, so I can't like say,
Hmm.
but I would love that feeling of being able to be present and not being in my head. You know what I mean? And actually enjoying everything around me. So I really, really love that you brought that up, that you use that, because that's something I'm going to look into myself. And
Hmm.
for your podcast then, so you talk about the different ways that the mushrooms and the San Pedro work. Do you talk about other kinds of plant medicine, or is it mostly just the
Sure. So I
yeah?
talk about ayahuasca. I've got episodes on various different things. And when I do, I keep it open. So I do a podcast. I'll talk about, all these different medicines and how they affect. But of course, my case studies and my experiences with these two, because that's what I know the best from firsthand. But there's research and studies on MDMA for ketamine, all these other
Ketamine,
ones.
yeah.
Yeah. There's all these different ones, and they all have sort of, advantages and disadvantages and things like that. So
Well,
it's
I
just really what medicine speaks to you. People that come for the San Pedro, they really want to do something, but experience it with mindfulness, be
yeah.
present, and it can really help that. So Yeah.
Because I know a woman who came on here to talk about ketamine, and she said, like, she explained it the same way, almost the way that the microdosing the mushrooms or psilocybin does for what you like, almost explained it affected her the same way, that it like woke her up, and it basically helped remove the inner, you know what I mean, like the inner trauma that she'd been holding in within her body. And she was able to kind of let everything go. And it also, she was saying that it helped rewire the trauma in her brain. So I was wondering how similar they were. So listening to two different, like, people talk about a drug, like, um what would I call it? I would call it at the harm reduction type medicines that are natural. Some of them, ketamine is not natural,
Mm.
but having the harm reduction medicines be so far different, because ketamine is not a plant-based
Mm.
medicine, but psilocybin is. So
Yeah.
there can be the people that like to do more holistic, more not like moving away from pharmaceuticals, and more into a plant-based kind of lifestyle, even with their it's taking like sorry, it's early in the morning. Taking vitamins and stuff like that. Like my mom, as type person she is, whatever, doesn't matter, but she's very into plant-based stuff. So like even as
Yeah.
a child, I would never get like actual Buckley's or something like that. It would be
Mm.
a plant-based medicine for colds that she would use. I can't remember what it was called, or tea tree
Oh.
oil in the hair,
Mm.
all that kind of stuff, right? So
Mm.
um I kind of think, just from being an addict myself, that I think the plant-based, opposed to still kind of using a pharmaceutical, might
Me
be
too.
a more beneficial, because the addict didn't used to pharmaceuticals, so having
Mm.
something that's a little cleaner, not to say it's not clean, but like ketamine's not clean or anything,
I think
but
it's
it's
just
just
about
more.
connecting to the it's about connecting to the
Yeah,
earth, connecting to with who you are, and realizing that we have access to these medicines, that they're part of the earth and they were given to us, and
that's
that
what I was
you really
trying to say.
connect to them. Yeah, you really connect to that, to nature, to all living things, and you get that spirit from that medicine. But yeah, like the experiences are really different on both of those medicines, but they still help the same things. So they still help you to release the find the root causes of your pain or your addiction. They help you to release those emotions, and it doesn't start after the end after the ceremony. Sorry, no, that's just the beginning, because then there's the integration. And when people come to our retreats, I offer like 8 weeks support after. So you've got to take those insights and then integrate them into your daily life. And when I help people with addictions, I find sometimes people will just stop completely and they'll be like, oh my God, I've released all this, I just don't need it, and that's it. And then some people, they find it's reduced and then it just shifts over a period of time as they start to change things in their life.
That's
So it
amazing.
happens. Mm, yeah. And
Because oh, sorry. I just love that you do aftercare with people too, because just because then they know that, like, it's kind of a plunge to go to somewhere like that, knowing that you're providing aftercare as well, makes people more likely to be like, okay, this isn't something that, is too too unattainable for me. Do you know what I mean? Because when I
yeah.
come home and go back to my regular environment, I can still have the aftercare portion of it, because that's the part that's kind of scary, is when you heal and then you have to go home to your regular environment, and how am I going to survive in my regular environment now, you know? So having that
Yeah.
aftercare, I love that. That is so important, I think, especially for something that is so, well, would be such a profound experience than to leave, you know? Yeah, I just think that having that, being able to reach out, being able to communicate, being having um aftercare things that they are taught they can do is so beneficial, because like I said, I myself would be like, oh, now I have to go home. How am I going to do that? Right. So I think
Yeah.
that's great.
Yeah, so I give self-confidence courses, meditations, if people are coming for relationship healing, relationship courses and things like that. And a lot of people, one of their biggest fears are, what if I come, I have this great time and this great highs, and then yeah, and then I go back to the same. So that's why that support is so crucial. It's to help people not revert back to the same, to honor what they've learned and things like that. And research, if people are interested in this, then really researching things. All of the research points that you don't need to have multiple ceremonies year after year, or you don't need to keep doing it to have the benefits. People can have a massive life change from one ceremony. That being said, when people do come to our retreat, we do in a week, we tend to do three. So we do a ceremony, then a rest day, then a ceremony, then a rest day, because the rest days is that integration. People reflect, oh, now I've learned that this is why I'm like this, and this is what I'm going to do about it. Or this, people will have insights like, I really need to tell this person that I really love them and care for them, or I really need to say no to this, or I really need to quit my job. I can't do it right now, but I really need to get a plan to get out of my job. Or, people have these really big insights, and the day reflection gives them a chance to assess. And then that's how I support them, because I don't want people to make these big life decisions in the medicine and do it
Mhm.
then. So I say, let's just wait. Let's see how you feel. Let's settle back in and allow people to, have that ongoing support before they maybe rush any changes.
Because I definitely seen the benefits of people doing these kinds of things. I was in a 12-step program, but I live right beside a native reserve, right? So
Oh, wow.
one of my only mentor I probably ever had in sobriety, he was native, so he knew of like ceremonial things and doing cultural rituals and stuff, but he just thought to himself, there's not just one religion, one way, one thing for
Yeah.
everybody. And he kind of went on what he would call like a quest to like understand everything. And he had done this kind of thing. And he was people would think he was still high when they would talk to him, because the way he would explain things because of his experience and stuff. But yet, if you sat with what he said, it was so wise, and he was so well revered by everybody, because he had this glow. He had this like true recovered like vibe about him that the rest of us looked like fish swimming around wanting this. And he would speak a lot, and that's why I know that he said he literally has tried everything, right? But he said that the um the going inside like portion of the psilocybin was really really beneficial for him, because he was able to see, like the way he said it sounds like he's high, like I'm saying, but he said he's like, I'm able to see now. I see how like the world for what it really is and what it really isn't. And that's what changed his life. And because he had that open-mindedness, this is going back 20 years ago, right? So he had the open-mindedness due to his culture and experiencing ceremonies throughout his life, right? That he was one of the only people that anybody had knew that had tried these kind of um different ways of sobriety. And he's kind of the reason why I want to bring them forward to people, because if you were to meet this man, you would be like, there are so many ways that you can find help, and you don't need to just pick one. You can do more than one, right? Like he would go and do cultural ceremonies of his own culture.
Mm.
He would once in a while come and do the psilocybin ceremonies. I don't think he used San Pedro at all, but he would do different, like, different other cultures, traditions. He was into Buddhism a little bit too, and
Wow.
somatic healing and stuff like that, right? So he was just you can really see when somebody has actually been like healed. You know what I mean? You can tell the difference.
Definitely.
And so I know that's why I'm saying to everybody here, what she's saying is 100% true. You will see, if you were somebody who wanted to try this, that you will be like the person I'm talking about, where you will be able to understand not only yourself, but the world around you so much
Yeah,
better.
I think that's a really good point because that's what the psychedelics do. They help you to see the truth of who you are, the truth of what matters, the truth of what feels right and good for you. I got so many truths. When I did my San Pedro apprenticeship to work with that medicine, I spent a lot of time in Ecuador training. And so I was doing ceremony after ceremony after ceremony myself so that I really get to have a good relationship with the medicine. And that's really important. And also to go through those experiences so that when I'm supporting people, I've gone through so many experiences, I can, relate to where, the journey maybe that they're having. And it just brings you that truth. And once you have that truth, this is the great thing about the plant medicines, you don't go back. That's how it lasts because once you get the truth revealed about what to do in your life or who you are as a person and what really counts and what's important, once it's open, your eyes are open, you really
Well,
do change.
that's why he went on this quest, because he just
Mhm.
could not put the bottle down. And he had a wife, and he would always say, "Oh, I'm going to go pick you up some fish and chips," and not come home from the bar every night. So he just couldn't
Wow.
put it
Mm.
down. And he'd always find ways to sneak off and, do it. And then once he actually went and like put the effort into truly finding his way, and truly, like, he didn't want to lose everything. So he was like, in knowing that there are other spiritual ways. He was very spiritual. So spiritual
Mm.
ways, and they're like, his culture is all about, obviously, like the earth and living from the earth and what you can take from the earth to help you, right? So that's why he was the only person that anybody had ever heard had done this kind of thing, right? So I feel like that is why he was so peaceful. He was the person that everybody just wanted to be. So I am just wanting to promote this as hard as I can, because I've seen the effects of how well it does help. I just have never tried it because of my stupidity as a teenager. So I've always been a little bit afraid of it. But listening to somebody who is a clinician like you, and I'm a lot less afraid of it, a lot less afraid of it, because like he didn't explain
Yeah.
it the way you did, because he didn't have that knowledge, right? So
I think, like choosing the right place, finding a person that you feel comfortable with and choosing a medicine that feels like a good start, like, like we mentioned. So, if you're scared, which a lot of people are, going, to the Amazon by yourself, doing a massive group sort of tick box of ayahuasca might not be good for unless if you've got a lot of fears or you've got a lot of things to work through, maybe choosing something that feels safer for you. So doing whatever you feel is the right step for you if you are going to explore it and learning more about it. I mean, there's some great
yeah.
documentaries out there on how amazing this is, and it's a shame that it's been kept from us for so long.
Well, I feel like there's so many plants out there that haven't even, like, the properties of them haven't even necessarily been discovered. Because when I
Mm.
mentioned kava to you, that was
Yeah, I hadn't
somebody
heard of it.
else. That's somebody else I interviewed, who it's also a ceremonial tea. Well, it's a
Okay.
plant that they make into a tea, but he said what it does is it calms your anxiety down, and it kind of just, it's like, it's like a natural muscle relaxer. So it
Oh,
calms you down. So that's
mm.
basically what that does, right? So he produces this tea and has his own little tea shop for
Oh,
it.
wow.
And but that's what I'm like saying is like I like that different ways, and like with different plants there's so many benefits from so many
Mm.
things we haven't even figured out yet because we're too busy trying to find medicine that is not natural. And you know what? If we would have focused in the
Mm.
last 40 years on natural medicines, I feel like there would be far less addictions right now because natural medicines tend to not be addictive. Okay,
Yeah.
heroin, yes, but they put other stuff in that. So, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like opium itself, I've never heard of anyone being an opium addict. They're
Mm.
heroin addict because they add things to it that are addictive. You know what I mean? Um, but again, what is your website and your podcast called?
Sure. So the podcast is called Healing with Psychedelics, and the website is plantmedicinepower.com. So
Sure.
plant medicine power. Yeah. Thank you.
And what platform is your podcast on?
So it's on all the major podcast
Okay,
networks. So Apple, Spotify, Amazon, yeah, all of the major networks.
perfect. And if you do you have one last little bit of advice before I let you go for the day? Because I gotta get it started. I'm sorry.
No, 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 of course. No, just really, if you're suffering, not to blame yourself. One of the best things that the medicines taught me that is now in every area of my life is that self-compassion, to really be kind to yourself. You're not choosing to be where you are. You're there because of something, you're struggling with, and to just be really kind and really gentle with yourself. Because if you're not loving and gentle to yourself, then it's difficult to trust yourself that you're going to be able to help yourself get out of it. If a therapist or a person says to you, "Oh, you're an idiot. Why are you doing this?" All of that negative stuff, like you might say to yourself, then would you trust them to help you? No. So it's just so important to just be so loving and kind to yourself, and through that every day, people find the answers. And even the fact that they're listening to this great show is a sign that there's part of them that really loves them and wants them to heal, wants them to continue in their healing journey, wants them to experience that self-love and that all the good things that life has to offer.
Well, thank you so much. And it's honestly been my dream to one day go to a retreat like this. So you may see me someday. So
You're so welcome. I'd love to have you come.
thank you
Thank you,
so
Yasmin.
much. And yeah, have a good evening because
Thank
it's
you.
evening there.
Have a great rest of your day.
You
Bye.
too. Bye.